Hi, everybody. My name is Christy Craig, and I'm the publisher at Hidden Timber Books. We're a very small press here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I want to welcome you to this small press author reading series, the Friday Framework. I'm thrilled to partner with F. Douglas Brown on this series. It's going to be really fun. And just to give you a quick intro about Doug, and then I'm going to let him take over. F. Douglas Brown is the author of 0 to 3 from University of Georgia. He was the 2013 Cave Canem Poetry Prize recipient, selected by Tracy K. Smith. He's been an educator for over 20 years, teaching English at Loyola High School in Los Angeles, and he is going to be your host for these Friday Framework series. So if you have any technical trouble, send me a note in the chat box, and that will be where you'll see a couple of links to all the different poets' books and things like that. And if you have questions for the Q&A, you can use the Q&A button down below. So thank you for being here. And Doug, I will hand it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Christy. Thank you so much. Christy and I have known each other for some time. She wrote an interview with me and my good friend, Jeffrey Davis, before another little book that we wrote, a chat book. And I've always appreciated all the good work you've done and your books and everything at Hidden Timber Books for providing this space for us. So thank you very much. So we are here with this new reading series. This is the first of 4 readings that are going to happen throughout the year. Thank you all for being here. There's going to be tonight, there's one in December, there's one in February, and one in April. So we have a great lineup tonight, though, that's going to kick off this whole thing. And I'm going to read you something, but I'll go back and forth just to glow about the 3 women that we have here. And thinking about like our situation that we have here, I think what I have done is really hunker down on my friendships. And even though I might not be able to talk to everybody all the time, it's good to know that people have work, things that they're doing out in the world that is just bringing me up and making me, smile a little bit more and get on my game. And so my idea with Friday Framework is really to think about what does it mean to build or make or create when the world is either endangering one's freedom, one's livelihood, or one's opportunity to be more. What does it mean to live under the demands that society and personal structures have established for far too long? In these complex times, we need guidance to answer these complex questions and unpack the ideas of struggle, erasure, mixed/remixed by joy, celebration, and so on. Again, I'm thankful to Christy and Hidden Timber Books for providing the space for Friday Framework to happen. We are trying to connect 3 BIPOC poets whose work serves both as a springboard for greater understanding of the self, while also providing an example of how one fearlessly counters the duress their work addresses or may have been created under. And what I'm hoping that the hours that we create, and maybe even a little bit more, that this will really be liberation at its finest. They're going to teach us how to be free here. This series is really inspired by a poem by the poet Jane Cortez. And Jane Cortez has a poem, Don't Ask, 1989. And I'm going to read the poem as kind of a way to break all of this open. Don't ask, 1980. Don't ask me who I'm speaking for, who I'm talking to, why I'm doing what I do in the light of my existence. You rise, you spit, you brush, you drink, and you pee, you shit, you walk and run, you work, you eat, you belch, you sleep, you dream, and that's the way it is. In the morning, tap water tasted fishy, Coffee sits in his decaffeinated cup. Cacao and incense have a floating romance, and a stale washcloth will make you smell doubly stale. So don't get kissed on the cheek. Don't get licked on the neck. At 8 a.m., the trains and buses are packed with folks farting their bread and butter farts. The gymnasium is dominated by the stench of hot tennis shoes, and one in the locker room. A few silly talking, intellectual looking, Coke drinking, cloth dropping, paper littering, spinach pooting, smug, arrogant women wait to be waited on. And in another locker room, there are odors of crotches and jock straps, Bengay, Tiger Balm, and burning balls, sweat socks and sweatsuits of bodybuilding, door slamming, iron pumping, phlegm hawking men, all sour and steamy, wrapped up together in a swamp of butt pooping towels. But don't let it get you down. Don't let it psych you up. Outside, the ledges are loaded with pigeons. Clouds are seated with homeless people. Lyricism of the afternoon and a sub-proletarian madman squatting and vomiting from his bowels a brown liquid of death in front of your house. It's not that it's happening because of you. Those socks don't stink because of me. A bureaucrat is not a jerk because of us. I'm not this way because of them. And you're not this way because of me. Don't ask about influences. You rise, you spit, you brush, you drink, you pee, you shit, you walk, you run, you work, you eat, you belch, you sleep, you dream. And that's the way it is. And that's Jane Cortez. Cortez reminds us that too often BIPOC poets and writers are asked about joy when there might not be any to share, or asked about resilience when their bodies are constantly without rest. Too often, readings feature without understanding the humanity to write and present work, may be in opposition to what's happening outside our doorsteps, around the corner, at work, at the store, etc., etc. So I want to keep this in mind, that this reading is part Ribbit, a part mixology of good trouble, and part I speak because I can. And that's just the way it is. So before I introduce our readers, I want to frame this tonight with just a few norms. This is meant, number one, this is meant to be a safe space for our writers and our audience. We ask that all present listen with care for the content, but more importantly, care for those who created the work and those of you who have gathered to celebrate this work. 2, we welcome you to partake in the conversation, but please, let's raise the level of questions for our featured writers. They are already offering what brings them joy. They are already offering hope. These poets, like Cortez's poems, are already offering why I'm doing what I do in the light of my existence. So I'm gonna ask you to dig a little deeper as you populate questions in the chat, and I'm gonna try to curate them accordingly. Lastly, this is a recorded event and will be made available so that the learning does not stop. Please share and revisit, treating this archive with compassion and context. You, as a viewer, have obligations to this work you're going to hear as well. I'm going to read the bios and get out the way so y'all can hear this work. Go. Let's read them one at a time. We're gonna go in alphabetical order. I'm gonna read them one at a time so I could get y'all hyped before you read here. We're gonna first start off with Bridget Bianca, right here in LA, sweltering LA. Bridget is a poet and professor from South Central Los Angeles. When she is not sharing her own poetry at venues all around Southern California, she co-curates 2 literary series, Making Room for Black Women and the Women's Center for Creative Work reading series. Be Trouble from Writ Large Press is her debut collection of poetry. Snap, snap, snaps. Be Trouble is in many respects a love letter to Los Angeles. Even when the city isn't formally mentioned, it is always in the backdrop, always present. And we are always aware that Los Angeles offers as much danger as it does glamour, as much grit as beauty. This is the Los Angeles not shown on television and movies, the everyday minutia of Black Angelino life. If you're lucky enough to be part of it, then you know this heritage was handed down from one generation to the next. You will know that many reservoirs of that heritage are disappearing with little acknowledgement or news. If you're lucky enough to know when you've already had the best catfish, you've been to the best card games, you've seen the low riders glide up Crenshaw, you've heard the drum circle from the Mert Park. Bridget Bianca has written a book that highlights these experiences. The very least we can do is pay attention. Let's pay attention to Bridget right now. Give up some love, if y'all were here, to Bridget, my friend, Bianca.
Thank you. I never get tired of hearing that. I was over here just like, oh man, really? My book? I don't know, y'all. Okay. Thank you everyone for coming out. I'm going to start with a couple of newer pieces and then read some from Be Trouble. So please, if you have any questions, comments, snaps, hollers, put them in the chat. I love to see them. The first poem I'm going to read here is called White Knuckled Emails for White People, but I'm also going to give it a subtitle called Your Email Did Not Find Me Well. White Knuckled Emails. I heard something really bad happen to a Black person, then I remember that you were a Black person and maybe you might know them. Wait, is it racist to think that Black people know each other? I mean, I saw their skin and it was a lot like yours. Not that I'm saying all Black people look alike, but I'm saying I saw Black people on the news getting pepper sprayed and I wondered if you were out there because I couldn't pick you out of a lineup. I mean, a crowd. I mean, I can't tell you apart from the other Black lady in the hallway whose name I called you the last time I spoke to you. At least I think it was you. The state, I mean, the virus is killing Black people. The news said it has to do with institutionalized racism. I mean, pre-existing conditions and vitamin D and melanin. My daughter taught me to say melanin, to say diversity, to say people of color and not colored people. Of course, I would never say colored people. My father used to say he knew some very fine colored people, but my daughter, she said, Papa, that's not nice to say. Now you say African American, and he voted for Obama both times. And it's a shame how all of those businesses will suffer. I mean, what would Dr. King say? Violence against unarmed and defenseless property is not the answer. Not saying that you would steal, but I heard that's what happened in your neighborhood when you were a little girl. Is it racist to ask if you feel safe in your neighborhood? Maybe you should call the police if you see anything suspicious, like a Black boy in a hoodie, or a Black girl mouthing off, or a Black person outside after curfew, or outside at all, or just a Black. Do you think when all of this is over and we find a vaccine for racism, I mean the virus, I mean when we don't see color anymore, that we can go back to normal? Back when bad things happened to a Black person, I didn't think about it, and I didn't think about you. So that's one of the newer pieces. Another new piece here. We hold these truths to be self-evident. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Look, my bloodied fingers clawing at the soil to the east, to the south, scooping centuries full of riches and history, bottoming out whole economies, piling everything in the middle of my land, daring anyone to come and get a piece of this pie. Look, look, I am a siren, beckoning a father with child on his back, drowned while pursuing happiness. Come, you tired, you poor, you huddled, you yearning. Look, 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 her body curled on a bed of mylar sheets. Again, her body reaching puberty in a cage. Somebody far away deciding if she is human enough to be given maxi pads, toothbrushes, a shower. Look, 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 now her body limp in my arms. Now my hands open, demanding tomatoes or strawberries. My fists demanding English only, Christian only, white only, my fingers pointing. Uncle Sam wants you. Prove to me you deserve to be here. Work until the only thing your back knows how to do is bend until your heart breaks. Look, 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 now, her body. Mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable again, now, look, haven't you suffered enough? And one more new piece. While my heart rate is going crazy over here. Must be in the blood. How the hulls of slave ships must have smelled. How the odor must have greeted the shores like a hurricane, whisking bodies across the middle passage to the new world to their deaths. How the quarters must have wreaked havoc on the olfactory senses, the stench, a way to humble a wench or a buck, make them forget they are human and not bipedal hogs and mules. How the internment camps couldn't have been any different. Wonder how long it took for survivors to forget the way fear perfumes the air. How the camps at the border must be the same. What the children going through puberty without someone to explain the blood. We have yet to figure out how to explain the blood, how it smells strongest when it's all around you, or how you in safety find it too thick to swim in. The blood, how it clings and stains every fiber of this country. The blood, caked under fingernails from clawing up the sides of the barrel. The blood, amassed just beneath the skin, evidence of a blow they keep calling a love tap. So those are some new pieces. And I'm going to read a little bit from Be Trouble. Thank you again. Half these poems I wrote because of Doug, to be honest, because he kept inviting me to readings and I only had 7 poems to my name. And so I had to figure it out so I could read something and share. So thank you, Doug. This first one's called As the Wolf Picks His Teeth with Our Bones, also known as This Is Why Meetings Should Be Emails. I'm going to extend that to Zoom calls as well. As the wolf picks his teeth with our bones. A man I once respected said, he was tired of everything being blamed on the big, bad white man. With the haughtiness of a white woman in line behind me at the grocery store, running her basket into my butt. Because she is tired of me, perhaps I am keeping her from avocado toast, or she thinks black ass is so round and inanimate that I can't feel the metal banging into my tailbone. He said this like 2 white men backing into a compact space, parking their pickup truck over the line, neglecting to catch their door before it bangs into my small hatchback, forcing me to back out and park somewhere else lest I never make it out into the world. He said this like I could actually do anything about it. He said this in a room filled with big, bad white men, their jowls dripping with a tone that said, I know you people get upset over things like this, but if you were just calm about it, we would see that we really saved you from that savagery. We gave you our God, but you refused to worship quietly like we told you. He said this like big, bad white men don't actually run the world. He said this like he wasn't one. He said this like he wasn't one now more than ever. He said this like, excuse me, I don't want to get upset. A man I used to respect said he could talk about people of color and their microaggressions, but he didn't want to add fuel to the fire. He said this like he had already doused my body in gasoline and his tiki torch was getting heavy. He said this like 2 warning shots into my abdomen, like I didn't have a license for my weapon, like a Ta-Nehisi Coates essay could easily be mistaken for a gun. He said this like the few Black people around could ever feel safe enough to actually have an honest discussion about race or even say the word white without wincing in anticipation of the lash. He said this like, I better be good or he'll show me just what I'm good for. This is why meetings should be emails. So I could have microaggressed his ass straight to the trash where he belongs. An exasperated Black woman said, fuck it, I'll do it. It is fall. I have recently buried a loved one. It is the morning after the election. You are disheveled and teary. You assume the pain in my eyes is yours. You hug me, a stranger, say, it's so good to talk to someone who understands. I don't remember speaking. I don't remember your face, stranger. Later, I only realize I'm crying with a look on my students' faces. This is not a poem. It is still fall. Someone drove past my window at work and shouted fucking niggers, and only I seem to hear. It is a few days after the election. You come to me for a confession. You are mad at yourself for being so naive. I tell you the word nigger is a threat to my safety. You are late and have to go, and I am alone again. This is my life. It is spring. I've buried another loved one. I feel faint after yawning. It is months after the election. You are growing angrier every day. You ask me if I feel the same. I've been invisible, but now I was useful. So I say, I am a Black woman and I am invisible again. This is not a poem. It is almost summer. You blurt out, ever since the election, you wake up wanting to kill yourself and you laugh. This is my life. It is fall. 194 Black people have been shot and killed by the police, 73 more than the last time I read this poem. What will that number be by winter? This is not a poem. I had a student whose father, Terry, was shot in the head while lying face down with his hands cuffed behind his back. The police pursued him because he didn't have the proper reflective lights on his bicycle. This is my life. You may have noticed I like to use my hands when I speak. This can be seen as aggressive and I might frighten you into killing me. This is not a poem. Do you understand how taboo it is for Black women like me to go to therapy because we are supposed to be strong for everyone? This is my life. I am sorry that you only realized the world was fucked up when your sisters voted with their white skin and not their pink pussies. This is not a poem. While you vomit angst into my lap, forgive me for not holding back your hair in solidarity. This is my life. So I'm a little busy. And I think I have time to read one more. Maybe, let's see.
Yes, one more.
Okay, cool, one more, thank you. This poem is called I Want the World to See, dedicated to Mamie Till. 7. I don't get to talk about my body hitting the ground or the hands that pin me there. Everybody else gets to body bag me, slip me out when they are bored, fidget spin me, and see if I am as pliable as their laws. See if the Black woman really is the mother of the world. Explore my womb looking for the Big Bang or God. Am I making you uncomfortable? 6. Did you know Planned Parenthood offers more than abortions? Did you know WIC don't pay for diapers? Did you know formula is expensive? And I can't breastfeed my baby in private because I have to work. And I can't breastfeed my baby in public because you only like my titties when they're bouncing in your face. Am I making you uncomfortable? 5. Judging me for putting juicy juice in my toddler's sippy cup. Like I got time to worry about high fructose corn syrup and artificial food coloring. When you just legalized marijuana, but my son is still getting stopped and frisked. How dare you paint white mothers addicted to opioids with the finest brushes and oils? After you slammed me into the concrete so many times, I couldn't help but have crack babies. Am I making you uncomfortable? 4. You take my kids and send them hurtling across the universe, lie and call them shooting stars when you know they're just plummeting asteroids, and then you judge me because my babies make craters they can't lift themselves out of by their bootstraps because you cut those too. Am I making you uncomfortable? 3. Due to a surplus of Black children, they are inexpensive to adopt. People treat cheap things like they are disposable, like drive a car full of Black children over a cliff. Am I making you uncomfortable too? This is what it feels like to be a woman in a land more concerned with putting restrictions on my pussy than assault rifles. This is what it feels like to be anything but white in a country that values Confederate monuments more than my child's flesh. Am I making you uncomfortable? One good title. This is why Mamie left Emmett's casket open. Thank you, everyone. Can't wait to hear the rest of everybody's poems. I'm ready.
Oh,
Let's go.
Oh my goodness. Show some love for Bridget, please, in the chat. Love. Wow. I had to mute myself because I was just over here feeling it, Bridget, as always. How to explain the blood, right? Get that. Be trouble. Bridget is also my press sister. All right. My Cave Canem Detroit sister, Nandi Comer, is the author of The American Family, A Syndrome by Finish Line Press, and Tapping Out from Northwestern University Press. She is a Cave Canem Fellow, a Callaloo Fellow, a Kresge Arts in Detroit Fellow. Her poems have appeared in Crab Orchard Review, Green Mountains Review, Muzzle, The Offing, and Southern Indiana Review. She directs the Allied Media Project Speakers Bureau and is the founding member of the collective Detroit Lit. The harsh realities of being migrant and immigrant, being birthright and oppressed, are as hard pressed as the plancha move to the body. Each poem in Tapping Out is a freestyle movement of language and complexity put on full display under the bright lights and roars of survival. Comer's splendid and barbed Detroit style of language melts the mass with searing words. All mixed up here. Please give up some love to my friend, Nandi.
Oh,
Come on up here, Nandi.
hey. Oh, is everything okay? Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you so much, Doug. I am really happy to be here. I'm really happy that to be here with these two phenomenal poets, these two phenomenal women poets that are just like doing it. And y'all have me screaming already. And then also, Doug, these intros, oh, you over here writing other books and things. So thank you. I'm gonna start with a poem about my city coming out of the book Tapping Out. Detroit, Yorona, my heart, my city. I need to do something right quick, hold on. Yeah, I have to set my timer because I don't want to go too far. Okay. Detroit, Yorona, my heart, my city. Another ripped night, another dank song, another bloated head of headline child bobs in your river. Loaded barrel woman, pumped piston city, 7 of your boys rushed a townhouse door for jewelry, for a cable box, for a game console, tossed over kitchen tables, turned another boy's face to mush, and you've gone and given up their ghost. Singing a murderous sinfonetta, you make another girl, another son dance on the waves of your wails as if each bullet were a small celebration missile. I know this lost love luck is not your fault. You do not mean to change a father's body to canopy and shield into a dead weight your daughter will tuck herself under until your singing is done. But I've watched you strain with moan and hem, your living room floor scattered with obituaried flaking faces. I've seen your organ arms frantic wave, the length of your fingers curved around carnation stems. Each night your skin twists morn to morn. Beating chest woman, yours is a solitary grief whose wailing provokes the next hand hooked to an infant's throat. Weeping woman, foolish mother, I've tried to sing your praise song, but each of your river-drowned children is another clinging cord in my throat. Don't stay, you warn. You refuse to protect me. Still, I drag myself to you, kneel and kiss your oily asphalt knees. No one knows your grieving songs, our love of graveyard strolls. If only to fondle the fringes of small caskets, I come back, I retreat, I come back, I retreat. So I just wanna, I know you mentioned some of the wrestling poems, so I wanna read one that's kind of wrestling, but also just about struggle. So I originally wasn't gonna read any direct wrestling poems, but I think this one is, it's okay. If I can just find it, maybe I should. Here it is. How not to lose the mask. Take down the man who grabs your crotch on your way to church, which actually happened to me, and so I decided I had to write a poem about it. When the bells swing through their soft devotional clang, when you are near and can recognize pastel flowers ruffled in a girl's church dress, you will pass the stubby man, your opponent. You might take him for another worshiper or merely a drowsy morning pedestrian. When he reaches his thick arm towards you, you might not realize where he is aiming. You might not understand until he seizes you, until you've already caught his dirty fat hand and spun the both of you so that now you face each other. You might blurt out, hijo de tu puta madre, and pendejo, and mierda. Summon every curse word you can remember. You might be too far for any priest to notice your assault. Make the most of this match. Twist his arm at the wrist. If you can, an elbow bend. The struggle might feel like a lifetime, but let's face it, your grip has never held on long. So keep cursing. Do not stutter. See how his startled eyes roll open. Call his foul. Repeat, pinche, cabrón. When he loosens your grip and takes off running, chase him. That's allowed. You might even follow him for blocks. Even if you stay planted in your tiny square of sidewalk, keep cursing. Call him pendejo again. Yeah, I like to curse in Spanish, so there's some curse words in that poem. Anyway, so I'm gonna switch over actually to my chapbook, American Family of Syndrome. I've been thinking a lot about how we've been dealing with, how we deal with the bodies of Black and brown folk. And so I keep coming back to this poem, and Aricka appears again and again. And this is written for one of the few women that were named in the journals of Dr. Sims, who was the doctor credited with discovering a lot of the initial tools for gynecology. And for a long time, he was praised. Everybody was like all about him. And then they realized that he had discovered or developed most of these practices, and even an early cure for fistula as a result of operating on slave women without consent. And so, you know, they always keep taking our bodies without our consent. And Aricka appears again and again. Once I was a slave, then I was an Alabama woman, a hushed experiment hidden between the damp thighs of Tuskegee men. Too many times I was a newborn next to my mother in LA General County Hospital, Her slick syllables said something in Spanish, something in English, something about sterility, something about tubes. I am plump and soft and have not always had this hair. Always damaged, always ruined, sent away to be fixed and corrected. I'm America's opaque shadow, tossed like a dog rotting on every country roadside. I've been Gila cells passed around like Halloween candy. Are the doctors still waiting for their Black offering? Me, a silk dress of skin. Consider this. Each moment I am perched on an examination table is my break, my diseased heart, my taken child. This is how I feel: wide, dark, lumpy, cotton at the bottom of a pillowcase. My cartilage has been trustworthy in its role, how it performs its designed duty, how it keeps fastened my flesh to my bone. If I could be more than a specimen, more than a collection of daffodils, flora would mean I was not here. Don't you see? I am still here on all fours. I was never bone, nor beast, nor symbol for suffering. I'm a compass for warnings, a cured tissue. They are still dressing me for the cut, and I prep for the familiar cold gauze turned warm, then wet, then red. So I'm gonna continue on with another poem from American Family. I have been thinking a lot when I shifted somewhat in my work, and I've been thinking a lot about like kind of how we get accused of madness, and oftentimes it's just racism. And so that's actually having this impact on us. And so I wrote poems in response to the characters in The Color Purple. And I had to write a poem about, I wrote a poem in Mista's voice. And there's a epigraph from the beginning taken from the novel. It's part 4 of a poem. There's a part of the poem I can't read. I can't read it out loud. It's so paged that I only read the poems in their section. So I'm only gonna read section 4. Mista's Blues. And here's the epigraph. Fact is, you gotta give them something, either your money, your land, or your woman, or your ass. Wife, your man with small hands has no excuses. When I wake, my mouth tastes smoke. Do you understand how their stares can be intent on breaking? How someone's bent knee yearns to thrash against my throat? They dream of weight and hoof squeezing out my inhale. Here, a man might bleed you for dinner. I have seen how they take from manure-colored men with too much honesty and a full safe, made them twist and plead. Yesterday, they let me go, only to become a stumbling chicken tomorrow. I'm another pesky mouse in their garden. Each night, I lie, and in my uncomfortable sleep, my dreams, the world cocoons itself into cotton and tries to suffocate me. I am the rot of the world, a threat, a traitor. When they are done with our neighbors, they will pass me the shovel. They will tell me to dig. And so I have 2 more poems. I'm gonna read a love poem, sort of. My love poem that one of the few times I ever write love poems. And it's titled Words Between Us. I have it marked off. Here it is. Words Between Us. In each sentence, I turn over what I mean to say, but my words are undercut by my body. I say, I am here, lover. I love, amigo, mágico, amor. For you, I translate a dream, bougainvillea, flor, tumbling from my elbows and knees. I am always undoing the language of my body. My arms, my hair say black, dark, English only. You grab the sounds in my fingers. You hang a flat fish from my teeth. No, these are our words rendered in our kitchen on our balcony at night. I say, Ken, you see skin. We are a lake of how do I say, and si sabes lo que es. Then my body says, no, 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 la, 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 la. This assemblage of words and body tightens into bad blood still. I mouth them, a litany of words, luz, almohada, labios. They shadow windows, dwell in the spacious folds of our bed linen. I've seen you stumble over my warped words. You rub them gently between two fingers. Some nights, while night birds cackle in the streets, when you think sleep has wrapped my head in its heavy blanket, I see you place my oh on your tongue. And the last poem, I'm gonna read from my other screen over here. It's a fairly new poem, and it's kind of I've been writing, I mean, we're in a sci-fi world, so this is not necessarily sci-fi, but it's definitely reflecting on what it feels like to be in a city that feels pretty empty, because people are staying home, and what that actually means for a city like Detroit, where so many people come into the city every day that don't live in the city, and then what happens when those people don't come every day and what we get to do. And our city was ours. And when the outers left, there was so much space. We took to our parking lots, our downtown plazas. Some of us drank their wine and sat in their cafes without fear or the cold blue watch. We cruised our island, perched barefoot on our stone whitewashed bridge, without the outers designing dead-end streets or plowing up our lots or tearing down our houses. We tricked out our cars. Confetti lit our bikes and blasted blaze ice wood from our kitchen windows. And yes, we still slept uncomfortably bent around the lumps of our mattresses. We awoke to the same nightmare sweat and reached for one another's thighs in our darkness. Who knew there was another kind of sleep? The outers had made our city a theater of tragedy. No one told us it called for sadness. We licked sauce from our fingers while the outers screamed about war and loss and stolen Amazon boxes. We contented ourselves with dance battles. We laughed at the outers and their ill preparedness for drought. We didn't clock in at work. We made each other gifts of vegetable bundles and lavender oil. We did not serve the outers. We returned to our river. We left our houses and threw white parties in our black as asphalt streets. Thank you so much.
Wow. I've seen you stumble over my warped words. Was no warped words there, Nandi. None at all. Thank you so much. Amazing. Show some love for Nandi in the chat, please. Summon every curse you could remember. Throw it in there. She's from Detroit. She can handle it. I love it. Also from Detroit. Speaking of, I brought all my favorite Detroit folks. Aricka Foreman is a poet, editor, and educator from Detroit, author of Dream with a Glass Chamber and Salt Body Shimmer, Yes, Yes books. She has received fellowships from Cave Canem, Callaloo, and the Malay Colony for the Arts. Her poems, essays, and features have appeared in the Offing, BuzzFeed, Vinyl, Rhino, the Blue Shift Journal, Day One, Snuff Poetry, James Franco Review, Thrush, Please Excuse This Poem, 100 Poems for the Next Generation, among many others. Aricka lives in Chicago. Salt Body Shimmer delivers girls and women with their hearts and strides unbroken, however provoked by deadening violences. Aricka Foreman's deft lyric is both canopy and camouflage, beyond able to outwork predators in the hard silences they will against laughter, booty clap, and no. Aricka Foreman's debut collection declares its right to every place, finds its heroes, and offers a spell for everything. Out of a grave vision, Foreman condenses the accumulated pain of subjugations and rises a dazzling mist to cool our eyes, our tired flesh. Please give it up for Aricka Foreman, my dear, dear love and friend.
I love you so much. Yeah, I want to not get my thank yous out of the way, but like put them at the forefront because I often forget and I feel like people will think I'm being ungracious and I'm not. It's just, I've smoked too much pot in my life. I can't, it's fine. So I want to thank my beloved F. Douglas Brown, aka Dougie Fresh, who became such a bomb during my first year at Comic-Con, and it has been like an extended over a decade friendship, and I'm so eternally grateful. And thank you so much to Hidden Timber Books for collaborating on this experience and launching this series. I think that it's gonna continue to be important, be vital, and sort of like feed into the fruition of the voices that you're already lifting up. And so I'm super appreciative of that. And so I actually am going to start off with a poem that is not mine, because I love to pay homage. I don't know if you can see it. I'm wearing my shirt of like all the ancestors: Phyllis, Harriet, Zora, Gwendolyn, Maya, like all the ancestors, right? And so I want to always bless the space that I get to read a part of. And one of those ancestors is June Jordan. And so this is Poem for South African Women. And it starts with the epigraph. Commemoration of the 40,000 women and children who, August 9th, 1956, presented themselves in bodily protest against the Dompas, in quotes, in the capital of apartheid, presented at the United Nations, August 9th, 1978. Our own shadows disappear as the feet of thousands, but the tens of thousands pound the fallow land into new dust that, rising like a marvelous pollen, will be fertile. Even as the first woman whispering imagination to the trees around her made her righteous fruit for such deliberate defense of life as no other still will claim inferior to any other safety in the world. The whispers too, they intimate to the inmost ear of every spirit now aroused, they carousing in ferocious affirmation of all peaceable and loving amplitude. Sound a peaceable and loving amplitude, sound a certainly abounded heat from a baptismal smoke where yes, there will be fire. And the babies cease alarm as mothers raising arms, and heart heat as the stars so far unseen, nevertheless hurl into the universe, a moving force, irreversible as light years traveling to the open eye. And who will join the standing up, and the ones who stood without sweet company will sing and sing back into the mountains, and if necessary, even under the sea. We are the ones we have been waiting for. My beloved, my archetype, love June Jordan. I too am going to read a new poem. So new, it was written in the week. I will totally not regret this later because we get to make things and change things, and that's what it is. But currently, this poem is called I Was 15 Minutes Late Because I Tried to Be Great, which is both a title and an epigraph from Legally 47. I'm reclaiming my time, stocked my shelves with oolong, and all my fingers do in the night is know who I am. Break down sativa dominant and find a new language for bitch, I'm alive. What's a news cycle that a spliff can't toast to? Bath drawn, I catalog the following: rose petals, grapefruit and tea tree oil, salt, and some say prayer that says, I am because I am. Like, I'm trying to be of the earth and all its good sin. When I smeared across my mouth after a solid 12 minutes in a bathroom stall, when I wanted to leave without washing my hands. Ready when I say I'm ready. Every day is a jukebox and I got a bag full of quarters. I want Thornetta and Nina. I want Megan and Cardi, who remind me of girls I rocked club dance floors with. All this talk about what we have to do about this current political situation. No one. Me. Opulence. Have you seen my heart? Have you seen the country's ledger? Girl, I'll be where I need to be when I say it's time. I've been here, ancient, a vessel, born new, and with so far to go. Watch your tone. Watch the way you say my name. And then I have not read this poem from the book yet. It's a weird thing to be a woman, femme woman, reading long poems. I'm tired of us explaining about it. It's long, girl, and it's hard. And I write about carnage and I write about brutality because it's bound up in the intimacy of love, the intimacy of country, the intimacy of law and language. And so this is the first time I want to read this out loud. This is called Intake Interview. It's a multi-part poem, and the first page of it takes one intake line question. If you are a fellow neurodivergent poet, person, being who has had to commit themselves to healing themselves. So it kind of like repopulates and breaks the intake line as like the epigraph of each section. Intake interview. Have you witnessed or been affected by violence? If yes, explain. Before the gunshots rang us rum-dum, a girl stripped on the dance floor. Skirt pulled up above every hip line against the first by the second's hands. Never had coke or ecstasy, not learned to loose the last drop from the bottle with the best of them. Spliff and drag, muscles made numb. Who is the victim of witness? To crave and swallow the knowing. Remember the thick Tallahassee heat rubbed against our bodies in the field? Hungry are the ogs, the witnesses, the chorus, let that hoe know, let that hoe know, echoing across the crowd. And when he exhales from his jeans, thrust into her up-tempo, no one turns away. Some cheer, some rigid with shock, souls planted on the floor. Instead, we pull cell phones from pockets, catalog, fear. They might forget every detail after, casually to a friend say, I was there, you won't believe, we never thought to ask her name. Have you violence? If, explain. Before the gunshots rang, rum-dum, girl stripped on the dance floor, he offered me a spliff, though never asked my name. Us in the woods, me against trunk, hard bark veins filling with the skin of my back, surrounded by too many trees to feel safe, glistened by the Tallahassee heat, a split tongue that could slice me down the middle. Desired a ruinous love. I settled for what I could ask for, be wanted. The first casing fell soft, like a stunned lightning bug across the ground. I was drugged into the pavilion for safety. I wanted the story to write itself, me grateful to know my place, find a hero who never thought to ask my name or affected violence. Explain. I'm trying to unlearn it all. Draws on nightstands, tucked in my purse, a mouth full of palmetto bugs, pink empty belly, wet lungs brown with newly burned green, that damned heat warming red dirt. Crows there too, cawing like clockwork every morning, the wet ground and the fat worm that writhes toward the light. How to say sorry for believing I was different than the half-naked girl and the first and second og, and the hands pressed against keys, archiving how all of us blame the rum or the ecstasy or the spliff coating our lungs, and the heat too, soaking tree limbs, us running from the fields toward corners of the pavilion after the gun pointed at the black sky, empty, hollow, point chatter against dewed grass. I know it happened this way. I went home to sleep and lie. Been by violence? Explain. Forget the og, slipped pants on the floor, forgot the girl's name you never asked, dawn quiet, cross-legged in the dewed grass. Forgot the man who waited on the dark stoop after he walked you to each door, forgot the hand he held as the salt stained your good shirts. Forget his mouth pulled thin with rage, imagined fists that bludgeoned open the og's body, a face of ground meat like some kind of justice. Forgot the machine that held your mother's lilt. Imagine you told her and she came knocking with a pot of collards, her sparrow heart in her hands. Forgive the woman with glass lips and patent strappy heels. Forgive her leaving you. Forgive you leaving too. Forgive the wolves inside you and the fire ants swelling the poison out. Forgo lightning bugs in your name, how your mother spelled it to lift, to be alpha and omega, to punch, sit up and ask. You witnessed violence. Having to admit that I really was a girl and all of a sudden was orchid and ochre and obsidian and oak-hued children. We were not small, but without our mothers, was bus at a safe speed down the dark road, us in the dark woods, lampposts tall as flags, lit only a short distance, was our hands harnessing the medallion glow of plastic cups emptied of 100 proof, was punch into our sweat-glistened bodies, was a thickly rode spliff and its orange corona, was the tree and scaled skin pressed into there, or was a boy between my body, the tree speaking nothing of consequence. Was time buffering, loading beneath the thick Tallahassee heat, and to the gunshots done, was our humid fog consuming the pavilion, was a new juke joint, shadow hotbox. In this 100, a girl was, do I remember her face, my face, our faces, skirts slid up on was dance floor above each sip against one og while the second og's hands was hunger or witness in chorus. Let that hoe know, let that hoe know. Echoing the chamber was the cough. His face, and his face too. Released himself from starched denim was a slip of history of violence thrust hungry inside her. We didn't turn away, cheering. Rigid in shocked glee, souls dead, root be sweet now. Darling, grotesque is cover your eyes for more, is a catalog for fear they might forget us. In the details, casually, to a friend, was there, you won't believe, we never thought to ask, what was her name? Whew, good to know. That is a poem to get through, child. To get through. And then one last poem for the neurodivergent homies. I'm having this thing where even my friends who know my journey, my intimate dance in accepting and like about the continued progressive healing of being neurodivergent and having a number of disabilities, keep offering things that I don't need them to offer. So I wanted to read this poem. This was when I was on the olanzapine and now I'm not. But like, you know, just saying our things out loud, our truths out loud, even in the dance, the horror dance, the fight of dealing with the world, and then dealing with how we process that differently doesn't always need an immediate balm or a supposed immediate balm. So this is failed reincarnation before olanzapine. My honeycomb illness of bees buzzing bright in the brain, their sticky spittle turning hours in kaleidoscope. That slow drip, the trees' autumnal gold, how it latches to the shoulders of pedestrians like the take me with you of lovers. Take me across the thresh of whichever door might amp this song up. Good needle jitter. When the station's stuck between suffer and c'est la vie. Who in a body like this can afford to believe in reincarnation, though? Once I dreamed a river of mercurial silt and gold bangles bridging over my open wrist, and the sun's radial rippling despite rising brown water. Here, language in limbo of leveraging one evening for a hush if you can manage, a whisper taught or torch or touch, can bind you to a fever if unchecked, let. Wound, then bruise renders blues inevitable. From the green porch, I swing between the whir of dissolving cars that whip and excel. Panic hitters its baseline like a house track, begs, dance, 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 asks if you can believe in a God who demands to witness what worship, while abandoned, becomes. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you. Thank all of you, all of you. Please give up some love to Aricka Foreman in the chat, please. Woo. Thank you. Thank you so much. I love this. Every day is a jukebox, and I have a bag full of quarters. Have you seen my heart? Come on, you better go. You better go. Oh, I'm gonna have, before I have Nandi, Bridgette, and Aricka come back, I just want to pub. This is a new series. It's really hard to get a new series off the ground. And so I went to, to start it off, some of my heavy hitters who I think, probably because Aricka and Nandi I've known the longest, who really call me out while calling themselves out as well, or calling the world out in their work. And, Nandi and Aricka have been just so dear to me as friends, and have been, in gentle and firm ways that, called me to action. I just recently read an essay that I wrote, and it opens up with Aricka calling me out at Cave Canem, and how that I'm all the better for it. And Bridgette is, somewhat new. We've known each other for a few years now, but Bridgette always shows up, just always shows up for me. And I really, really appreciate all three of you for helping me start this off. And the next iteration of this is on December 4th. We have 3 more amazing readers, Louisette Resto, who's here, Ty Freedom Ford, and Angela Pena Redondo, all educators. And I thought in December might be a good time to let them catch their breath and let us know what is what in the world, their world in the classroom, and their world on the page as well. So in between that, what we are going to do is we are going to archive this event. I'm going to go back to my poets and ask for some prompts. So there are going to be some prompts when we post this archive in probably a week or so. Give us some time. We want you guys to be still active with this. And we're going to do book giveaways. And so, let me get my camera right. So you can get these fine books, get them. All right, you could get them if you respond to the prompt. Everything will be laid out there for you. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. That's what this series is about, is not just the reading, but how can we elongate this, because we need it, right? Again, you need somebody to call you out and tell you what you're doing wrong, but in a loving way. And I hope this series does that. All right. All right. Bridgette, Nandi, Aricka, can y'all turn the mics on? Can we all get on together?
Hey.
Hey, hey.
Oh my gosh, so happy. I'm so overjoyed. And how y'all doing now? How you feeling right now?
Real good.
Cool.
I'm good. I want to especially thank. This is the first. I've done a number of the Zoom rooms since the top of COVID, when I was like naively optimistic, not necessarily about the outcome, about where I was. And so this was the first time that I was able to read some poems that, like, they're tough.
Yeah.
They're tough and they're difficult, but I felt like there's a reason this was the first space, because it just was like a big hug of like my beloveds. And so I appreciate you. I appreciate y'all so much. And I feel really, really honored to be in this space. I really do.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, and again, and thinking about what this series could be, I wanted to start off with people who don't shy away. Yeah, you write the tough poems, and God, that last poem, and I mean, and I think it says a lot about all of your work, and maybe y'all could respond to this, just what you see between the lines, right? Like how you said that, and looking at the poem, that you start off with this line from the interview, and then where it goes, and you know, Bridget, same thing, where I'm right here, like this is my life, like I'm here, but I better tell you what's between this life and what you think it is, right? And I mean, and Nandi, same, like, oh, I mean, I go back to that line, I've seen you stumble over my warped words, like as a love poem, and it's like, I'm still trying to find out what's going on, and you think I gotta get it right, but I'm stumbling over here, you know what I mean? And I love that, which I do, and you know, no magic of me trying to bring y'all together, it's all right there. What do you, I asked this question to you earlier, and I just kind of threw it up there. I talk about, you know, when I would do a workshop in my class, 3 things I always start off with, and that's image, action, risk. You know, we've heard where you go with it. You guys, you all have all 3 of them. Y'all have all 3 of them. But where do you go with it? Like, where does a poem start for you first? In the image phase? Does it start with the risk? Do you go with the action? You got to move it, you know?
I feel like my boring, repetitive answer is always. Right? Like, my poem starts so much in my body, and the body holds so much, right? It holds memory, it holds action, it holds risk, especially living in a Black queer woman body. And then everything that I won't speak for all Black queer women, but everything that I download, even if I can't access it until later, is image-based through like the bodily senses, right? Or like what has been written on the body, even if I can't access it later. And so I think it's all the things. I also, you know, maybe not selfishly is not the word that I want to use, but dexterously. And I feel like I'm overusing that word a lot, but like, fine, until I find another word, because language, whatever. That like, because I'm such a big, like, I'm a film buff and I'm a visual art buff, and I really gravitate towards language that continually pushes language to stand upright from the page, right? To be a figure, to be a tapestry. And also, like, you know, I can't speak to everybody else's diasporas, but like, Black folks, we got we got tapestries, we got images, we got figures, you know what I mean? So like, I've never not been taught a story that did not feel like a cinematic experience, that didn't feel like a whole, like, I got the score in the background already with the bonfire, with the resistance, with the struggle, with the joy, with the love, with the fugitive joy. Like, all of that I feel so deeply, and I feel like it can't be easily extracted from one genre, one theme, one medium, which is probably why I'm like flirting with all the mediums. But so yeah, I don't know. I think if we give people the opportunity to be capacious, they can be. I think our work is capacious. I think ourselves are capacious. We got so much expanse. Like, we literally embody on a human level, on a scientific level, like Stardust. But then also looking at the lineage of like what we've been through, I'm just like, well, what else you gonna have? I don't know. You tell me. So that's my answer on that. And I'm gonna mute myself because I'm talking too much. Love you.
That's your stock answer. That's her stock answer. You know what I'm saying? Y'all better get, what do you think, Nandi and Bridget?
So, like along when I was young, I was in a creative writing class, but I was like growing up in the '90s when like Love Jones was getting all hot and shit, and I remember like being in the cafes right before it hit, and it was something about 15-year-old me that was like, none of my poems are ever gonna sound the same. And I don't think that I believe that way now, but there was this moment where like, I was like trying to do performative work, and I wanted every single poem to have its own experience. And I think what still is in me is that I think every poem is telling me what it wants. And so there are some poems that like you're saying, like the image, the verb, it just, for me, like I will wake up literally with something that's just playing in my head, and I need to like get it out, and it just depends on what it is, whether it is that image, whether it is that thing. But I actually think what happens for me, I don't think that risk is ever outside of any of those poems. So I can't say it's like image or risk, or action or risk, because I don't think I'm working towards the poem until there is a risk there. And you know, the risk can be, oh, I just hit something that I don't think I realized I was moving towards, and I am going to take the risk in pushing that further. I'm not going to run away from it. And the risk is also maybe saying something that I just have never said before, that I have wanted to say, or I want to fuck with the lines in ways that like somebody's gonna go on this ride with me, you know, like so I think that it's okay. I really don't want to write poems that aren't taking risk. And maybe that's that 15-year-old me saying, your shit can't sound like anything else you've done already, because it's not like not that I can't be obsessive about subject matter, obsessive about like a certain way of writing, but there still has to be something at stake when I am doing it. Otherwise I'm bored. Like I actually, if I am only going to just write like this other poet or write like this other poem that I know works, it's gonna be really difficult. Even when I'm deciding I'm gonna write this form. I remember one year I decided I was just gonna write poems about my fathers, and they were gonna be 7 syllables long, 7 lines long, and I was just gonna only write those poems. Well, I wrote other poems, but I was only gonna stick to that. I still found risk within that rigidity. Like I still found spaces for me to like be like, oh, where are you actually challenging yourself to do something different, even though you've done 50 of these poems already. So yeah, I'm gonna turn it over to Bridget.
You see, I'm over here like, yes, everything, yes. Yes, yes. I don't know. For me, my first answer was going to be anger, and whichever way that fits into those three categories, because that's pretty much how I begin. Because I'm so like smiley and happy and bright and colorful, and Bridget's all nice, and, da, 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 and I'm really like seething on the inside all the time, and so I have to get that out so I can like talk to people like a person and not like the real Bridget on the inside. And so poetry for me is that. So when I begin a poem, I'm usually trying to untangle something out of me that's gotten kind of stuck on, well, don't say that. Well, you can't be like, well, you can't tell them that really. And I want to just get it out. So it is a little bit of a risk that I wouldn't say those things. And then I write the poems and I just keep saying those things all the time. And so I don't know how long the risk lasts. I kind of like what Nandi was saying about not wanting things to sound the same. Because I kind of stumbled into performing poetry out loud, like literally did not plan it, had 3 poems to my name at that time. That's Doug's fault. I hadn't written poetry in 5 years. I hadn't read poetry in front of a single person in 3 or 4 years. Like I just didn't, I teach English. I don't do anything else. And so it was strange to me that the poems even had a sound that I could even think about or say, oh, it shouldn't sound like that, or maybe I should say it this way, or I should pace it. Like I never even imagined, because I just talk like that. Like I get angry in the middle of talking. That's just what I do. Like as Bridget, I never think about it in a poem. I have to like stop myself because my heart's, beating out of my chest. And so I never even stopped to consider what I was doing. And then now I can say when I want to write a poem, it doesn't come. When I want to say a thing, it doesn't happen. I have in my notes right now that I put in my notes the last time we all met together before the reading happened on September 25th, I put, I want to write a poem about Breonna Taylor, but I am tired. And that has stayed in my notes since that day, and nothing else has happened because I've been trying to write that poem. And that poem said, forget you, just be mad right now and be tired and leave me out of it. So I think for me, a lot of it does begin with just the risk of what can I say right now? What's going to come out right now? Hopefully one day I'll have a better practice than that. And I'll tell my students the same thing. And hopefully they'll have a better practice too. But I try to think about what happens when I don't have a choice, but to say something, like it has to come out. And so I've been playing around with constraint. And when I say playing around with, I mean looking at the constraint saying, I should write that poem and then going about my business and doing something else. But imagining like, what would happen if I only had these 5 words, these 6 words, this one thing? What would I say to people if I could only speak in adjectives, if I only speak in verbs, like what could I do? And so thinking about it that way, it's motivating. Is it working? No, not yet. But that's a bit of the risk, right? It's like, well, maybe it will work if I just gave myself like 2 seconds to think and to stop grading papers and do it. So I wish I grew up in the Love Jones era so I could have had somebody to motivate me to write these poems. I did not. I didn't, but I wish. That's kind of like what I think about is like, man, that the love that you hear in the poetry of the 90s and the 80s, and even the folks that, we look up to, everybody. It's like, man, I wish I had whatever that magic y'all had back then. I mean, was it the weed? Tell me, because I need to know how they were creating such like masterful things that sounded nothing like anything in the books, on the stage, anywhere. Like no one was repeating themselves, right? No matter what the remixes sounded like, they were all different. The remix was different. Y'all remember the remix was different?
But I think there's
it was not. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nandi.
there are a lot of people that did not survive like a lot of their work didn't survive because
True.
I think that what you're getting at is the ingenuity that we find in every generation, right? So we were doing, and I was a youngin' during that time, and I watched. I mean, my father introduced me to Jessica Care Moore because she was working with him on local TV before she went to New York. And so, but I just knew that I had this thing that I really loved, and no one, not even my poetry teacher at the time, really knew what I was trying to access until I walked into a cafe. And when I say there were 3 people in the room in that space, like it wasn't that yet. But I also think that like you couldn't have, I think it's about the time, right? So you couldn't have, I don't think we had a conversation about Black male interiority the way that Philip Williams, Ricky Laurentis, and all these other poets did 10, 15 years later. So, but, and I would never, and I wish I could have had those examples when I was a child. But we had to wait until Love Jones happened, until we started seeing Cave Canem, until we started seeing poets going through these other kind of spaces and taking these kind of risks on page. And we're doing it now too. So like when you decide to write, you know, that poem and you read it, you're gonna be like, I wish I would have been writing poems. Some kid is gonna be like, I wish I was writing poems in a pandemic. And you're gonna be like, nah.
No, you really don't.
There was so much ingenuity. Like, nah, dude. It was
So much.
Calm down.
You know, I mean, that brings up, Nandi, like about like what your book touches on though, about being a spectacle in the world though, right? This idea of masking and like how people thought they knew who we were. And a remix might have been necessary to mask either that knowing who we are, or the idea of being authentic, right? Or, you know, I love this, what you said, every poem has to have its own experience, right? And trying to walk with that. And I'm so glad, I wanted to say, I'm glad we're recording this. I'm glad people are sticking around. These are gems here, you know. But this idea of being a spectacle in the world, maybe y'all could talk about that in your own work. Like, it's obvious with Nandi's work right now, but I think you all address it, you know.
Well, I guess maybe I'm always playing with the question of what spectacle means. And so for me personally, I'm never trying to be a spectacle, but I know that that construct exists, right? And I also know in like a number of like degrading ways that like Black women, Black femmes, Black trans, Black, anything that's not male, right? Always gets pushed to like the sideline, right? And I'm tired. I'm infuriated, but I'm tired. You know what I mean? Like, I did this like 5 years ago. I did this last week. I did this a year and a half ago. I did this before this motherfucker like subsumed office, right? You know what I mean? And so like, at what point do we actually show up and support Black women? At what point do we like actually show up and support Black femmes? Do we actually like show up and support Black trans folk? And that also includes like trans mask folk, which I know that I have to like ungird my cis privilege with that as well. But also like, when are we gonna show up for each other? Like, what are we doing? Can somebody give me the tea? Can somebody give me the line? Can somebody give me the like keynote PR thing that I can, because I am tired. I'm tired of us dying. Mm-hmm. I'm tired of us being circumvented. I'm tired of us being ripped asunder like every other othered identity in this country. And also, this is what this country does. This is what our country does. Like, there's a reason why in my bio that I say that I'm American, because I know that like there's like a strain of culpability of like my Americana. And also the fact that like, do you see this shit that I come from? Do you see the shit that I'm like in conversation with? Like, girl, did you think that I have a choice? What are you talking about? What? Okay. But like, whatever, you know what I mean? So like what is strategy and what is strategy based on change, based on a means of change, based on upholding a lineage for sure, upholding a narrative of sure. And like, what is this fuck shit? Like the rest of the fuck shit, I can't. I can't. So I won't.
I don't think we have to. I think
I don't think I have to either. I'm just trying to convince other people that we don't have to.
it's interesting that I mean, in thinking about the spectacle and thinking about what our own culpability is in these things, I think I'm always trying to listen and trying to figure out where I stand, and then also knowing when I'm shifting. When we talk about spectacle, there is also this understanding of performativity as well. And so it's something that I'm always in conflict with, because I remember like there are definitely some poems that didn't get into tapping out. Like there was a whole really bad poem, but I just really wanted to make my point, but I never could.
Yeah.
And it was because a really, really good friend of mine, we were like eating pizza in a pizza joint somewhere, probably like on a drunken night or something. And it was, I don't know if you all remember Outkast's I Like the Way You Move video.
Absolutely.
They're in a garage and they have all these women that are working on cars, but they are in bathing suits essentially. So there's a total subjectivity of Black women happening. And he literally looked at this video and was like, do all the Black women in the United States look like that? And I looked at him like, do I look like that? It's just like, it was really, and that's, I think, what the like racial imaginary is what we're always combating, right? And I think sometimes people really, when they feel like they're in safe company, can develop these notions and ideas. I've had people come up to me and say things because they think it's safe to say them. Or they don't know that they're just not supposed to say shit like that. But I also
don't know, girl. That's not the conversation that we're having.
But I also think that there have been times that like the most violent thing for me, like sometimes I've definitely gotten into concerts for free because somebody was like, oh, you're Black. Like shit like that. So they're like, yeah, I'll take advantage of that kind of ignorance, but oftentimes there's a violence inflicted upon them. And I'm not even just talking about violent, like a physical violence, but there's this like emotional, psychological conversation that we're always having to explain ourselves and say, wait, I'm actually a whole person here. I'm not a stereotype. I'm not this, I'm not this figure that you have built up about this very, very limited exposure you've had to my community. That's the other thing is like they have absolutely no idea how to even engage because the limited experience they have with Black culture has dictated the way that they see them. When you show up, they have no idea that there's like that you could have any other kind of personality, desire, loves, and passions. Like,
yeah.
I mean, this is what I was trying to go through in this whole book with spectacles and
that's true. And I think that there's like
2 hours.
yes. And I think there's like a latent like purview that we do to like, oh, we see the impact until we don't see the impact. And so like even also considering the fact that like we already knew what it was going to be because we know these worlds, we know these like spaces, we know these like whatever. So me personally, I really appreciate the like languid lyric narrative that happens. And I'm interested to see what's gonna happen after the fallout of a lot of different spaces and things. And
You mean the Great Reckoning?
good. Yeah, like a reckoning is not bad. It's good. It's dope. Like, yeah.
Ooh, a reckoning. I love the sound of that.
It's always a reckoning, honey. Always.
I'm just thinking about, like, I thought about spectacle. I thought about how for so many people in my life, I'm the only Black lady they really talk to. And that's so strange to me because I am not an incredibly friendly person. So it's not like you stumbled across me and I was like, yes, I'm your Black friend. Let's go. Like, I'm not your Black friend. Like, that's my baseline. And so when I talk to them, I'm like, man, you really don't know Black people, and you are putting that on me to, like, be what you imagine the nice Black lady that you see at the grocery store you don't talk to. Like, I think you're imagining that lady as me, and I am not. She and I are not the same. I'm not her. Like, I don't know how to, like, disrupt it without, like, shaking their whole universe about, like, what I'm supposed to be. And that's then also, exactly, because I care so little. But then again, I'm like, well, maybe I should be taking. This is a responsibility now that I did not ask to be your Black person. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Yeah, like Lubet said, like in Target, like anywhere, literally anywhere, people are talking to me, and I'm like, do you know that I'm not friendly? What the hell is this?
Ew.
But the idea of, like, watching people. Someone sent me an email with a Black scent, you know, like, just like out of the blue. And I was like, when did we start talking like this? Like, just the idea of, like, you're making a spectacle of yourself because you think I'm the spectacle. Mm-hmm. You're doing something outside of your norm, my norm, anybody's decent norm, to attract my attention, to prove something to me about who you are in proximity to Black people. Like, that little, like, I'm not your gateway to whatever that is. Cut that out. Take that away. So I'm really trying to be more careful about, like, who I allow to believe that access to me is access to Blackness. Mm-hmm. And that who I am in performance or in poetry or in the classroom is just a bit of who I am. You just got that bit for a little while. And that you could take my book home with you, but you can't take me home with you as your Black past when you leave me. Like, you can't say, well, I know Bridget and she's a Black lady like this, and so therefore this is how I interact with all the rest of you. Like, I just don't like that. So I'm kind of working through that right now in my mind. I've been having lots of conversations with well-meaning white people and well-meaning non-Black people about things. And I'm like, ooh, y'all don't talk to other Black people. That is becoming very clear to me.
Yeah.
I don't know how to work with you unless you find more Black people and then come back to me with your findings. Like, I just cannot, because I can't put on whatever that is you need. So I think about spectrum, I'm thinking about, like, what you put on yourself, what people put on you to behave in such a way to make them feel more comfortable or like they're more enlightened or more woke or more justified or whatever it is. Like, I feel really uncomfortable being that ticket because I am not. And I say it in the poetry all the time, right? It's always in there, like, I'm not your mammy hug, I'm not your Black friend, I'm not your this. And yet they listen, they're like, Bridget, that was so great. Oh my goodness, let me cry to you now about how I feel bad about being called racist yesterday. No, actually, you missed it. I'll read the poem again because you missed it. I don't think, go back to page 83. Let's go back to it and work through it again.
I was just about to say, the thing that is kind of most evident to me in this is particularly, like, in Black poetics, right? Mm-hmm. There is, for us, we have a history, we have a legacy of Black poetics, and that is just, I hate using the word diverse, but it has so many different spaces that it is occupying. Yet and still, when we show up as Black writers, there is this already written expectation within our voice, what we're going to talk about, how we're like, oh, there's a Black poet, they're going to be talking about racism. And I mean, they're probably, maybe not, like, I don't know. You know, there's a lot of assumptions that I have constantly been facing as a Black writer. And even for my Black people, you a poet, spit something. Like, so, like, you know, I do think that we have to think about this a lot as writers, also because we can be taken up and our writing can be used as representational per se. And it can be like, look at how good our people, these Black folk are, and we have to be careful with that too. What it means when people are trying to like expand this knowledge of what Black writers are doing. Oftentimes they translate into foundations choosing a couple of people to be these, umbrella representations of Black writing, and they're still not looking deep enough and far enough and wide enough at the audience of poetry as well, because that's where therein there lies the real challenges, where people are like, well, poetry is this. And while the academies are defining what poetry is, we have a whole tradition that gets ignored by the academy that many people are listening to. And not all of us are participating in that community either. Like, and just to say, we all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird that we don't get a chance to exist in those kind of multitudes. Like that Blackness can't be all of these things and none of these things kind of all at once. Like
we do. I'm just not, it's just there are people that don't recognize it, but we do. That's the thing. We have to like, we exist.
Yeah.
I don't need you to tell me that I exist. You just ain't seen it yet. And sometimes I'm okay with that. I don't need them on my block checking out my open mic. I don't want y'all in my space.
Oh.
Yeah, some things you do to yourself, absolutely, because that's a part of the spectacle of I think like, I don't know about everyone else's town, y'all in Detroit, but over here in LA, South Central, Inglewood, Leimert Park area, we kind of have like a little enclave of what we do here. A lot of Black and brown poets, a lot of Black and brown folks attending. And every now and then the audience is different, but when you get called out to be the one or be the few that gets a chance to venture to the other spaces that are more moneyed possibly for you, you end up being the only 1, 2, or 3 in the space. It's always the only 1, 2, or 3 in the space. And it feels it's not genuine, it's not fair, it's not fun. I leave immediately afterward, collect my dollar and go about my day. But there's something about like that kind of service that they place you into as an artist, as a Black woman, as a Black person doing work, that can be so exhausting. And it could cause you to I'm constantly like rethinking my position in these spaces. Like, do I want to even do this? Like, I love being included, but am I really being included, or am I just being invited to serve? Like I'm serving a dish and then to leave, like that kind of feeling too. And if they come to my space, they're just coming for some good barbecue and catfish and a little poetry on the side and some petty salad, or are they actually coming to actually engage in Blackness in this space? That's something I'm constantly thinking about. So thank you, Doug, for this hard ass question. It's gonna make me think forever.
No, that's good. I'm going to close it with Eric is saying, we're a tapestry and how much expansion we have. And that's the thing that I know I knew going in that you would give us. And I really appreciate y'all starting us off this way and making us take a hard look, a deep dive into these things. I love this. And when people play it back, they're going to hear we have expansion. Every poem has its experience, and that a poem might say, forget you all at once. So thank y'all very much. I know with the time zone and everything, it's getting late. We're going to shut it down. Don't forget, in December, everybody, come back to us, or even before that, when we archive this, we'll have some prompts. We'll have some book giveaways. One more time, give some love. Bridgette, Bianca, Nandi Comer, and Aricka Foreman. Look at that. You can have one of these. Thank you so much.
Love you so much, Dougie. Thank you.
Oh, to death, to death. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Christy, Nandi, and Aricka.
Thanks for being here.
Love y'all.